I want to express the collective gratitude on behalf of all the devotees and all the participants in various programs, to the volunteers and the back-end support staff from IT to audio visuals to the stage decorations, guest management, and all the other facilities management, accommodation, transport, and maintenance. All of them have worked silently behind the scenes, because I always tell them people don't come here for comfort and luxury, because that is not the place for for that here. But there is something in the world that is not available, which is what is available over here. Of course, you will say you are there. That is surely one of the reasons. But another reason is not everybody can talk to me, you see. And I cannot talk to everybody. Yet they experience love through so many of the people who are voluntarily serving, with the only aim that through that they are able to serve God with that purity, with that intensity, sincerity. So many of them are serving. So I wanted to first of all convey the gratitude on behalf of all the people from around the world. Thousands of devotees have seen the programs and enjoyed it. It would not have been possible without your efforts. So very, very big round of applause for all those who have worked silently behind the scenes. As they say, those also serve who simply stand and wait. So they are those people who simply waited for their opportunity. It did not come during this time, but definitely next event, next occasion, I invite them to come and celebrate. And this is the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Being willing to sacrifice for each other's sake is the most important quality of the members of a family. If they don't learn to sacrifice for each other's sake, the family cannot be together, it will break apart. So when each thinks of the others and all think of God, that's when there is unity, there is happiness, harmony in the family, in the society, in the nation, and in the world. Each has to think about the other, and all have to think together about God. How should we live, behave, conduct ourselves so that God is happy at the end? And in that process, everybody will also be happy. But Jesus first, others next, yourself last. So that is the principle. First priority God, second all the world, and then finally it comes to you. So if we live like this, then whole world will be a very, very happy place. Nobody needs to suffer, struggle. Nobody will have any sorrow. This idea of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha will be manifesting in every place. That is the idea of creating a better world. And this is one lesson. When students stayed back, devotees stayed back, and those who were here, they worked day and night to make sure that these functions happen. Just yesterday, I was telling that 5-6 years ago, when the function started here on the 89th birthday celebrations, it was a very small place. There was not much here. There was not even internet here, proper one. And in those days, those who were around, they worked very hard to organize functions. But over 3, 4, 5 years, they constantly improved in their way of managing the events. And this is not a professional event management group. These people are not the ones who have been doing this for decades. They're just young boys, girls, and young staff. Most of them have no exposure of the outside world. Very few have lived outside. Most of them have lived here, but they learned quickly and they delivered as it was needed, and we could conduct conferences of international standards. This itself shows what is the power of love. Now, if we truly love, we are ready to do anything, and that love makes us do everything. When monkeys built a bridge across the ocean, it was the love of those monkeys which made it happen. When Gopalas came together and lifted Govardhanagiri, it was the love of those young boys and girls who helped Krishna. Similarly, when our programs have to be organized, so much of work has to be done in various fields: nutrition, health, education, rural service. It is the love of people which makes things happen. Now, I'm just the reason, I'm just the excuse for you to love. Even if I am not there, you should be able to still love people the same way. Then we have achieved something in life. I'm only teaching you how love can achieve great things. Right now, it's directed towards me, therefore, it's achieving great things. But even if there is no person or a being around, even then this love should not diminish. This should continue. Then it becomes eternal. So that is the kind of love that each one of us has to develop. Some of the students whom I was talking to, they asked me, how do you do all these things? How do you get the idea? The next we should do this. We should have a music conference on this theme or a medical conference on that theme. When do you get time to study what's going on and then decide what conference should be held and who should be selected as participants and who should be the in charge? How do you know all these things? And simply they attribute to the idea that you are God and you know everything. But I want to tell them, not because of the divinity that I know, it's simply because of the love that I know. I want to do, all of us want to do good to the world, and that love which is within, it is intuitive, it is intelligent, it is aware, and it will guide, it will tell what to do next. So if you ask me what are we going to now, I'm letting out the big secret for those who know me or those who don't know me, for both of them. What is coming next? If you ask me today, I don't know. Tomorrow I can tell you, because what needs to be done tomorrow will be revealed tomorrow. And what needs to be done the day after will be revealed the day after. This is what is called as present is omnipresent. You live for today, what needs to be done today, you just do it with all your might, all your sincerity, effort and love. And tomorrow will reveal itself to you tomorrow. Why worry about thinking about tomorrow? So that is how divine guidance happens. Why I am doing that? Because I want to dismantle this idea that divinity means one person manifesting in one place, in one form. I want to destroy that complete concept and tell you that your intuition, that which arises out of pure feelings of love for each other, with selfless feelings, that is divinity. And each one of us has it. And this is what has been told to us for 96 years. That you are divine, trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust that voice of God within. It's nice to say, come on a stage and give a discourse, you are God, I am God, everything is God. Let's go for lunch after that. But who is really paying attention is my question. Who is really paying attention to what I'm saying? Trust your divinity, trust your intuition, don't be afraid. How long will you hold your parents' hand and walk? When you're kids, okay. Now if you're grown up and you still go with your father holding your hand, mother holding your hand, it doesn't look nice. So that is the idea I'm saying. While I am there as a physical presence for the children who are still growing, they are yet to grow into that state of understanding. For them, physical presence is needed, because that is the only way they can relate to this idea what God's love is like. Otherwise, they don't know. For them, they have experienced mother's love, father's love, brother's love, friendship, and things like that, but they have not experienced something like this. So for them, my presence is a must. And for that, this presence is needed. It is the reason for it. But for others, most important thing that all of you have to do is to turn within, believe in that intuition. And it's okay, take a chance. What will happen? Worst case scenario, you will fail. Accept it. Next time you will learn and move on. Therefore, don't doubt your divine intuitions, because that is how God has spoken. Before he came as Satya Sai Baba, was God not there? Did people not achieve great things in their lives? Did they not go on to realize their selves? Did they not become great Mahapurushas without a being around? Because they trusted that intuition, that divinity which is speaking from within. That's exactly what we have got to do. That is what here onwards I am pushing for. And I want to tell that you have to learn, especially the elders who have been there in the fold for a very long time, they must develop that intuition. And how do you know it is intuition and not your instinct or intelligence interfering with your thinking? There is no attachment in intuition. When you have some personal idea, where your intelligence, individual intelligence is at work, you are attached to that idea. If it does not happen, you get agitated. If it happens, you get excited. Somewhere, though, you will tell everybody, it's all God's will, it's all God's doing, but within yourself, oh, I did it. Somewhere in your private, personal space, you will tell yourself, you feel good. Even though you don't say it, you feel good within. I did it. That is not intuition. People will achieve great things with intelligence also, there's no doubt about it. But that's not what God wanted you to do at that point in time. But we end up doing a lot of things that God does not want us to do because either we of our instincts or because of our intelligence. But when intuition is at work, this is exactly what God wants us to do. And sometimes you would not know what to do, how to do, how to go about doing it. But you have to just trust that and take the step forward. And you will see slowly how the whole puzzle starts falling in place. It looks scary in the beginning to trust one's intuition, which comes from within. It looks little fearful because we are used to getting guidance, we are used to being told. But then that is not the way forward. The way forward is to trust one's own intuition. And how do you test? If there is no sense of attachment to it, then you know it is intuition. If there is any attachment to it, no, it is something lower. It's simply an interference in God's will. So that is the idea. It's a very simple thing, but I want everybody to practice this every day. How long will you WhatsApp me? How long will you email me? And how long will I answer them? Some things are important, which are large projects. There are several aspects. Okay, you ask, I have initiated something, and naturally you have to ask me whether this has to be this way or another way. But there are a lot of things that you have to do in your daily lives, in your own countries, in your own campuses, in your own houses, households. You have to develop that inner connect and trust that. And let it go wrong. One or two, twice, if you fail, no problem. We have fallen many times before we started walking. It's okay. Trust and walk. And that is how each one of you will grow into that true divine self. When you trust that and you walk ahead. Don't keep looking for where is Swami. So some people search in me, the Baba, Shirdi Baba, who are ardent devotees of Shirdi Baba. Recently, a lot of new devotees are coming. I'm new to them, but they're very ardent devotees of Shirdi Baba, but they never have seen Satya Sai Baba. They know our household, 3 generations of devotees of Shirdi Baba. So when they come here, they feel so much of divinity, and they try to search for that Shirdi Baba in me. They try to look for that Shirdi Baba in me, because that is the only way they can connect to me. I allow them. They call me Baba. I say, all right, if that makes you happy, fine. Then there are those who search for Satya Sai Baba, because they are attached to that Satya Sai Baba form. So they all try to analyze and understand how this is Satya Sai Baba, how can I assure and how can I feel comforted that this is Satya Sai Baba here. To them I say, all right, you feel that way comfortable, you do. You call me Swami, you call me whatever, Satya Sai Baba, all right, as long as you feel good. Some others who have come just recently, they have neither seen Satya Sai Baba nor they are devotees of Shirdi Sai Baba. First time they are even coming to a gathering like this in the recent times. They look at me and they think I am the Swamiji and they call me Sadguruji or Swamiji, and they have their own understanding of how things are. But for their sake, for them also to connect to this divine path, I say, all right, you go ahead. Then there are those who know me from ancient times, in the sense, ever since I came 11 years ago here. And they know me as a brother or a colleague or a friend. And they cannot overcome that, so they look at me and they call me the same way even today. I allow them also to do as they feel. So why do I do that? Just to allow you to slowly rise and finally connect to the divinity which is within. You don't have to look outside. Does that mean that people won't come here? They will come. When one batch of students pass from the school, the next batch comes in. So new people will come, new things will happen. Many more have to come and experience and connect to that divinity. But those who have already had the experience, who already know what the truth is, for them there is a greater responsibility. The responsibility to go beyond names and forms. Ultimately, there is no form, no name. As long as we dance around forms and names, we will never be redeemed. I assure you that you will not find redemption till you. Even Meera, who was such an ardent devotee of Sri Krishna and so attached to that form, she's not seen Krishna. Somebody told, this is Krishna showing an idol. And he is so charming, he's so beautiful, he's so loving. And she just fell in love instinctively as a small child. And she continued living in the thought that Krishna is her husband. So though she married, for her Krishna was the husband. And she was always searching for that Krishna as a form. But she found none. And she was always looking and she was always pining and yearning. At the end, She found Krishna as her own self, within herself. And she says that finally that Krishna that I was searching outside is within me, I realized now. So she did not have a physical darshan or sparshan or sambhashan with Krishna all her life. But she craved for his love and ultimately realized that in that love itself there is Krishna. There is no separate Krishna. The one who passed away 5,000 years ago cannot come back now to dance with you. But you can feel that love within. In that love, find divinity. When every act, every thought, every word is suffused with that pure love, when all that occupies your being is to love others selflessly, unconditionally, in that practice, you experience divinity. And that practice must become more intense with each one of you. And that is my main idea. So you will see changes happen. And those who are very attached to a name and form, they will struggle. There was this Hanuman, great devotee of Sri Rama. Chiranjeevi, even today he is available. But the kind of work that he did for Sri Rama was not seen he was doing for Sri Krishna. Because somewhere in his heart, that form and name of Rama was supreme. He was devoted to it. But he accepted the idea that Sri Rama also can be Sri Krishna. And when Sri Krishna asked him, he did come and do what he wanted, was asked to do. But that's about it. Because the form and name was still, I think, though he was a jnani, yet he was attached to a form and name. So his role was one. Then there was this Jambavan, who would just not accept and fight and fight and fight, and finally, only when he was beaten into a pulp, he understood that this is Rama. Yet his chapter ends there in Bhagavatam. There is no more further. That's where his story ends. Because still, so likewise, don't get entangled in this name form thing. Yes, as young children, they need to understand, they need to know what it is like. For them, it is fine. But for all others, it is an effort that you must put. Trust your intuition, trust that divinity within, and don't look for things outside. Even last year, I had hinted this is how it is going to be slowly. So one, very clearly I'm saying one phase of the whole thing is come to an end. It was how it was meant to be. This is the next phase which is beginning. And in this phase, each one has to withdraw and go within. It does not mean that you can't come for darshan or you should not come for darshan. You can come, but with a different attitude, with a different idea. So here is just another vessel which contains the divinity within. And like water is poured into a tumbler, it takes the shape of that tumbler. If I pour it into a bottle, it will take the shape of the bottle. Likewise, divinity pours itself in several forms, including all of you. And it takes that shape and continues. If it is a transparent bottle, you can see through, you can feel the divinity more. If it is not transparent, you can't see. If it's a colored bottle, the water looks colored. So that's all is the difference between us. The vessel's difference, not the water's difference. And we have to learn slowly to withdraw and understand this greater truth. And this has been repeated oftentimes, several times, but it's time now that we pay more attention to it. But as I said, if you're too attached to names and forms, it's impossible. You'll not be able to outgrow that attachment. But you have to look deeper, deeper within. And you will find it is all same, including within you also it is the same. In me, in everything, it is the same. That is what the scriptures say, that is the truth. This is what we have heard for decades, but time to put it into serious practice. Not once in a while practice, serious practice to feel that divinity within. And as I said, the best way to do it, love all, serve all, that is the best way. If you develop more and more love for each other, for others, especially who are in need, in that love you will start experiencing that divine intuition, divine feelings, and that will redeem everybody. You don't have to feel bad, you did not come for an event here or you came for the event here. It doesn't matter after that. Wherever you are, you will be satisfied, you will be happy, you will be contented. That is the idea. Please go back and contemplate on what I have said. And just don't listen from here and take out from that side. It's easy doing that, but it is not the right thing to do. Especially from the elders, I expect this. Youngsters, they are still in the process. But I hope that, and I'm sure they will understand it faster, because they have no preconditioned minds. They are open, they are free. So for them, it's so quick. So feel that love. That's all I'm saying. Feel that love within, express that love without. In that love, find that divinity, and no forms, no names are going to restrict you, or limit you. You can express that love freely for all, and that divine intuition will guide you at every step. It guides everyone at all times, provided we are ready to listen and follow. This is the ultimate, and there is nothing beyond this. This is the truth. And I must tell you the truth. I told Aham Satya Bodhakaha, I am the teacher of truth. I am not anybody else. Finally, this is what it is. Therefore, I wanted to convey that, even though it's a day later, but the movement is better today than yesterday to explain this. And I'm sure you will sit down, think, contemplate on it, and understand the truth, and more importantly, practice it. That is what I expect. So, will you contemplate? Will you practice? That's all. That's most important. Remember, Swami is not a person, it's a personality. Like father is not a person, father is a title, mother is a title, Swami is a title to someone who has mastered himself, and thereby he is somebody we look up to. Such a person is called a Swami. So remember that the definition of Swami is not just a person, it's about a personality. It's a title, not a name. So remember that.